Here we are in front of the Sunpath 2007 rig. You can see all the gorgeous detail that's been put into this. Let's see what BillBooth has to say about what new products are available today.
Now, we have three things that happen when the RSL goes. The first thing it'll do is pull the ripcord pin. Okay? So as the RSL goes, it pulls the ripcord pin out. If you haven't broken away yet, all right, it will release the other side. Pull the pin, releases the other side, all right, then loads here, okay, and pulls that little tab. This sets the hook. This is a fish hook with no barb. This sets the hook well, all right, and then it goes. Now it's a race. The pilot chute is trying to deploy the reserve. The main is trying to deploy the reserve, the malfunction. So as long as you keep tension on this, the fish can't get away. But the second you lose tension, in other words, this starts pulling away faster, the connection to the main releases.
And if you pull the reserve?
Pull the reserve immediately. Yeah, total. So you pull the reserve. I'll pull the reserve for you here.
Can I have your attention?
And we'll hook everything up. But
there's a Richard Fletcher.
This is in here like this, okay? Now this isn't coming out of the pocket because nothing happened. That's why we have that little safety tie on there, okay? So what happens when you pull the reserve is this. The reserve pilot chute goes and it disconnects.
And it disconnects because
immediately.
of that.
No moving parts. The hook is facing one way. Okay? So it only connects if this is going faster than this. So it takes care of all malfunctions with no moving parts. It knows what's happening in a 300th of a second. It makes a decision whether this or this wins. And in any chance, sometimes in bag locks, the main, which is a malfunction, is a bag lock with a pilot chute, starts pulling, it frees the reserve pilot chute, which now doesn't have a 5-pound bag on it, and the reserve pilot chute halfway through beats it, and it disconnects. So at any point in the sequence, it can change its mind. It's a very smart little piece of metal.
I saw a video.
Yeah.
It's very fast.
Yeah, very fast. So it means that when you break away in 1/2 second, your reserve will be at line stretch, perfectly aligned with your body. And so you get the fastest possible reserve opening. Nothing can be faster. If it pulled any harder, it would pull the bag off the reserve. So we had to fix it. We found out that it pulls at about 120 pounds force, which is the same as a 36-inch pilot chute at terminal. So it means on a breakaway, you get a deployment that's as fast as terminal, but you're not going that fast. So it's the softest possible opening because you're at the slowest possible speed. I've seen 50 feet. I don't guarantee anything below 100 feet. But we have some videotapes of people breaking away at 100 feet and living. Hopefully they volunteered. So anyway, it's very, very fast. It's been, it's on 5,000 rigs, about 1 million jumps have been made, probably as many as 1,600 actual emergency uses, plus 500 intentional uses. So a little over 2,000 uses now. And every single one of them's worked. 2,000 in a row is pretty good testing, considering the TSO requires 8. 8. So we've got 2,000 versus 8. TSO testing is wholly inadequate when it gets down to a system like this. And of course there are no tests in the TSO for it because it's new. So in 10 years there will be TSO tests, I guess. Very simple. And then show the other thing. Recoil ripcord of Spectra, which means if your ripcord comes out of the pocket accidentally, it can't float. It always comes back. So this is a ripcord with no metal except for the handle. And this is how it's done. We have a piece of bungee in the middle of it that gives it elasticity. And this ripcord can be inspected. All I have to do is look at the bar tack. I don't have to worry, is that ball swedged on correctly? I don't have to worry. So which, can you inspect with your eye? That or this little ball? And because Spectra is slippery, the pull force is 25% less. Especially when you pull at an angle, we've measured up to 80% less pull force to pull a reserve. Because this steel cable doesn't like coming around at a bad angle, but the Spectra doesn't mind it. It's also stronger. This is 1,000 pounds versus this ball is 600. So it's stronger, lighter. It costs 50 times less money to make. 50 times less money. It has lower pull force, and it can't float. So it has. I've had it in Sigma mains as the thing, and you generally get 1,000 actual pulls out of it before it starts to get a little shabby. But when it loses 40% of its strength, it's now equal to the traditional ripcord. Its lifespan should be infinite. We have put Spectra right here in roughly the same position as the static line, so we know it doesn't magically deteriorate. Your reserve closing loop is Spectra. Your slinks are now Spectra.
Is there a standard shock cord inside?
It's a special shock cord. It has 150% stretch, and I only allow it to go to 100 so that I never load the shock cord to breakage. It limits, okay? So you could take this and go 1,000 times like that, and it doesn't wear. One neat thing is because it's always under 1 pound of tension, you don't get any motion like this. It's always under a little tension, so everything stays, and there's no rubbing motions. And we have 5,000 Sigmas with 10,000 of these housings on it, and not one housing has had a burr in it that's cut a Sigma main ripcord, so we trust the housings. But of course soon we won't have metal housings at all. They're unnecessary. They're only necessary for steel ripcords. And I'm leaving them on because it shows that this ripcord goes in any rig with a housing in it. Yeah. It's one of those things we tested on mains for 5 years, and now it's ready for reserves. Just like the Ram Air Reserve was tested as a main for 5 years before we put it in reserves. I don't want surprises. And I've actually had it here. I changed from Dacron to Spectra 10 years ago anticipating this, so I could see how Spectra worked in this position. So now I've been staring at Spectra for 10 years there, and it doesn't magically deteriorate. And every breakaway done on a Sigma so far has been on this, and the force is much higher than a human can pull, and they don't break. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty thoroughly tested. So, from now on, it's going to be standard, and if you want a metal ripcord, you can pay the $25 more that it costs. All right, if you want to have a metal ripcord. Plus, this doesn't dent this right here, which is important. If you have plastic covers here for students, no longer does it scar up the plastic cover because everything is so smooth now. You don't have this eye under here, which is tearing everything up. These eyes are $18, all right? This isn't 18 cents. You know, it's really a good savings. Magnetic riser covers are the biggest story though, guys. They will actually, I believe, save lives. We've had 4 people die since 2007 from opening shocks. On the same canopies we've been jumping for a long time. Something's changed, and what's changed is that tuck tab riser covers have gotten extremely tough and hard to release because people want to do a lot of free flying and stuff.